You know my story about life? It's a series of hurdles. You jump over one hurdle, there's another one waiting for you. Actually, I knew one of his lady friends was a good friend of mine, and they were together for several years. So on occasion, I would meet him, and he seemed like a nice guy, interested in photography, of course, and always with the camera. And they were together for many years. And though I only saw him on rare occasions, I was impressed because he had a talent that I never had, and I knew few people who had it. Yet he did some very interesting things that were not the usual portrait. They were the back of somebody with the front and things like that. Unusual put-togethers that he did, which I made copies of them and sent them to friends. And that's how I knew Al Gashite. Well, people during World War II and even the immediate period following are different than the people today. Most of the people today in suburbia, where I live, I don't know if it's other places, are me people. And they're bringing their kids up to be me people, and these are the future leaders of America. I remember when I grew up, the neighbors were like family. If you came home from school and there was nobody at your house, you went to their house. And the same thing when my kids grew up. If I wasn't home, they went to a neighbor's. But here, hi, that's about as far as you get with a neighbor. Now, I've been sick for almost a year, and I have yet to have a neighbor come over and say, "Hey, Marvelle, how are you doing?" This would be unheard of in those, quote, olden days, unheard of, where people were practiced the golden rule. Do unto others as you'd have others do unto you. Of course, they went through lean times, banks closed. I remember my grandfather lost all the money he had in the banks, and people were poor. And I remember as a child, hobos knocking on the front door and asking for food. And my grandmother would say, "Come around to the back door," and they would go to the back door and she'd give them a plate of food. And I remember depression lines, and I remember the OPA was the Office of Price Administration. It was a government committee that was formed to see that prices didn't escalate. And after the war, they Congress wanted to do away with it. So we formed a committee and rented a bus, and off we went to Washington. And I got to sit next to Orson Welles, who also was on the bus. And my only thought was, he sleeps with Rita Hayworth, and here I am with him. Oh, sure, we talked the whole trip. I mean, we were two seats together. Oh, do I remember? We talked about the cause and the cause and the cause, because how are people going to eat if they can't afford the prices? And that's what the OPA was all about. I also marched with Martin Luther King 50 years ago. I've been to Washington several times. People were more into people in those days. They were more family oriented. Maybe it was because they were deprived of so much, I don't know. But today's people are just in for themselves, and that's about it. What money can buy. For instance, the lady next door has two dogs who drive me crazy when they bark. And so I told her, you got to do something. She said, "Oh, they'll report me, and I'll be fined, and I'll pay the fine. Big deal." I mean, that's the attitude of people around here today. In Queens, in New York City, right after the war, I went to school in Indiana, and all my friends were from New York. So I would go home with them for vacation, and I swore that I was going to move to New York. So when he got discharged from the Army, he got discharged at Fort Dix, which is just over the river to New Jersey, so that we could come to New York. And we decided to settle here. He was at Pearl Harbor when they bombed it. No, he wrote about it. He wrote about it. If anybody asked him, he would answer their questions. But he never felt the need to verbalize about it. Whenever we came over the bridge or whatever it is from Indiana into New York, and there was that skyline, the heart would just beat, beat, beat that you're here. And whenever I walked in Times Square with a friend, it was like seventh heaven, something you read about but didn't experience. The only thing we didn't like were the attitude of a lot of the people. They were not basic human beings. They were for themselves, which I understand why, but that didn't make me happy. New Yorkers. Oh, my name. My name is Marvelle Gilbert. I was born in South Bend, Indiana. and I'm celebrating my 39th birthday for the 53rd time, which makes me 92. I lived in Indiana until I was 21, and after that, it's always been New York. It's always been it was Chicago very briefly, but Chicago is not like New York. You can't compare them. It has all the advantages of has all the disadvantages of a big city and none of the advantages.
Sounds like Richie's coming in. Come on, Rich, we're between. You want to take a couple sketch photos
Yeah, I'll
now?
take a couple pictures, production shots.
Right, now's the time.
Okay.
In between.
Yeah, in between what?
Marge Kern is coming over and stripping. Yeah, Jamaica Queens. Jamaica Queens. In fact, you'd be interested to know that my school in my neighborhood was the first school in New York City that was paired. You know what pairing is? Okay, you have school A here and school B here. This is a black school, it's a white school. They ship the white kids to the black school, and they ship the white kids to the black school. What I'm saying. And it was an interracial thing, and our neighborhood was the first one that they tried that on. Of course, it flopped miserably, and my one son hasn't recovered yet, but it was an experiment, and many of my friends moved away so they wouldn't be part of it, but we felt that that was not the right thing to do.
Wow, it's quite a scene. Jeez, look at it. Just so you know. Look at this. It's great.
Oh, look at that. Hey,
Right.
yeah.
It's like a movie studio. It's very cool. Very cool.
Movie studio.
Get it, Richie.
How do you reverse this? It's showing me.
Hang on. That's a little...
Oh, feature.
See that thingy right there?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I
Okay.
want you to touch it.
I've
I
done
want
it
you to-
before. Yeah, okay.
Clearly.
Richard, get out of my movie. Get out of here. It's supposed to be my movie.
Jack,
Didn't
I
you?
want you to sit on that couch there so I can get you in.
Understood. I'm on my way. This is really cool, Ray. We'll like this. You look like a sound guy over there or something.
No, sit in the other couch. Far couch.
This is where I would be.
I'd like you there so
Yes,
you're
sir.
in this shot with everything else.
Everyone's a director.
That's right. I know what I'm doing. Thank you. Perfect. Ashes to ashes.
Don't have to say that.
On your mark, get set, work. Perfect. Thank you, everybody. I'm through. My needs have been met. How was it, Marvelle?
Nothing.
It's like talking to people.
Yeah.
It's just like talking to people.
But you should hear what I said about you, though.
How's your energy, Marvelle? You okay?
I'm fine, except I may have to pee
Okay. You want to do that now or after?
later.
All right. Try to keep it to a half hour or less. I don't want you to be on and up for more than like.
No,
an
I'm
hour.
fine. I'm
Come
fine.
back in and check in 20 minutes, wherever you want to do.
Yeah, just generally about half an hour sounds about right.
Okay.
Half an hour more.
I don't understand. This is all about Al. Why do you want so much about me?
It's kind of three things. It started out as, a thing about Alfred, but then he died.
Yeah.
And then we were interviewing him about Alfred, and then we talked to a lot of older people.
And that
And
was.
you're, I've known you since I was 16 years old, and there's a lot of overlap, a lot of the themes. So it's kind of every purpose. It's for you,
All right.
it's for Richard.
All right, good. Well, I can talk some more because I
So
got.
I would like to hear also about that guy that just left, your son.
All right, I grew up in South Bend, Indiana, and went to school at Indiana University. And college was the best thing that ever happened to me, not academically, but growing as an individual. I graduated in 1945 with a degree in social work and psychology, which I'll use on you two guys if you don't behave. My parents were very upset because when I graduated college with a degree in my hand, I went to work in a factory.
We can hear you. Thank you. I love you too, Richard. He said goodbye, you fuck.
Goodbye, you fuck!
Where did he learn such... Well, we'll get to that.
From his friends, not his mother. Oh yeah, I went to work in a factory and my family was appalled at the idea because here I went to college, got a degree, and I'm working in a factory, but I went in to organize a union because the workers were not organized. RCA plant in Bloomington, Indiana. And it taught me many things in life. And I look back on my college years as the most formative years in my life. I came from a very religious upbringing, and college taught me to be scientific and objective, which I think is the biggest thing I came away from college with. Well, I grew up with my grandparents who were very religious Jews, and I was a girl. Boys were revered and girls were kind of ignored. and I was very bright and they didn't know how to deal with me, that when I went to college, I won a scholarship. It paid 2 semesters tuition, my room and board, my travel expenses, and it was $100. The tuition when I went to Indiana University was $44 a semester. And I don't tell this to many of my friends because they're paying hundreds of thousands to send their kids to school. Going shopping is an experience that most of us don't like, because what used to be 99 cents on sale is now $2.49 on sale. Most of us my age, of course, are retired. And I got a bank statement last month from my bank telling me my balance was 25 cents. Now, I don't know where I'm going to spend all that, but I've got a 25-cent balance in Chase Bank. A lot of people have pensions. I don't have a pension because my husband worked on his own and I worked on my own. So we didn't have any pensions of any kind. Since I was brought up very religiously, I didn't go out with boys and therefore didn't know how to dance. But there was an organization called the Townsend Club. It was made up of all seniors, and they fought for better rights for seniors. And my next-door neighbor came to me and said, Marvelle, we're having a meeting this Saturday night of the Townsend Club. You want to learn to dance? Here's your chance. I said, well, what do my grandparents say? And she said, I'll clear it with them. She said to me, you'll be the youngest one there. Everybody will want to dance with you. And before the evening is over, you'll be a dancer. So I went. And while dancing with some old guy, I noticed the band leader. And I thought, ooh, he's cute and nice. I'd like to know him. And before I had a chance to find out anything, the drummer came over to me and said, the band leader wants to know all about you. Who are you? So that's how we met. His name was Paul Silberman at the time, but the Army, whether right or wrong, was training specialists to take over in Europe, and they didn't want anybody with a Jewish-sounding name. So my friend Ernst Rosenbaum became Walter Reed, and my husband, Paul Silberman, became Paul Gilbert because it was easy, because that was my maiden name. The rest of it is history. Yeah, most people think of the accordion as a polka umpapa instrument, but he played a classical accordionist, was a classical accordionist, and he taught music lessons, and he played loved to play. And one year for his birthday, on my lunch hour, without his knowing it, I took accordion lessons so I could play Happy Birthday on the accordion to him when he woke up on his birthday. And it worked. It worked. He was so surprised. But they had to give me a chest protector because the accordion squeezes your chest. And if you have anything there, you'll get squeezed. So I'll never forget that. I had to put on a chest protector and then put the accordion on. And Glenn played the accordion, my older boy, for several years. And even today he's a musician. He plays drums. Richard didn't take to music. He took to acting like his mother. Richard was an actor in grade school. In fact, he didn't want to move to Westchester because Macy's had told his acting class that they would get a $50 gift certificate for the next show that they put on. And he says, I'm not going. I can get a $50 gift certificate. So we gave him $50 and we moved. Anyway, Garbowski was my paternal grandfather's name in Russia. And when they came to Ellis Island, they told him that you can't come to America with a name like Grabowski, so choose one. He said, what'll I choose? So they gave him a bunch of names, and he chose Gilbert. That was my paternal grandfather. It means leather maker. My ancestors were leather makers. Well, I was brought up, as I said, with very Orthodox grandparents. I remember sitting in the temple having to sit upstairs because I was female. Only the men got to sit where they wanted. But I also remember on Yom Kippur, which is the holiest of days on the Jewish calendar, where you fast all day, my friends and I would go to a nearby railroad station into the cafe and have food and eat and make sure our faces were clean and our clothes were clean before we went back to temple. It was very segregated in those days. Women had no place at all in society. None at all. In those days, Women got the lowest paying jobs. Not only were they lowest paying, they were the lowest on the calendar. Uh, Many of them worked for commission, and most of them were housewives. Very few worked outside the home. Few of them might sell Avon or something like that, but most of them were in the home. Their job was to cook and clean house. And that's why when my male friends lose their wives today, they don't know what to do because they're so used to just going to work, bringing home the money, and having a wife who did everything. And since then, of course, we've come a long way, baby. Women are out in the workforce. We've got a woman running for president. Women are taking all kinds of jobs, went into space, filling vacancies in all industries, and are working to raise their level of income and arrange proper care for their kids. And each administration has promised to do all that and has done some of it, but there's a long way to go yet, a long way. I had a personal awakening which nobody believes when I tell it to them. You know what the Hillel Foundation is? It's an organization for Jewish students on college campuses. And as soon as I got to the college campus, I went to their first Friday night service, and they played the organ. They played the organ! You're not supposed to play instruments on the Sabbath. What's the matter with them? So I went into the rabbi, and I complained, and he said, sit down, let's talk. And that was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. And he taught me that there are things outside of life that are more important than playing the organ on a Friday night. It changed my whole life. Changed my whole life. I have two sons. One is 56 and one is 59. The older one encountered many problems in his growing up when they shipped him off to a black school, and the students there used to pour hot soup down his back and beat him up, and he never complained because he'd been taught that everybody's equal. And he didn't want to tell me because I was having breast cancer at that time. He told me, and my husband, that if we sent Richard into the pairing of the schools, he would take Richard and run away with him. So we knew that it was that serious. So we had Richard transferred to a different school where he got beaten up too. And Glenn got transferred to a different school. And we had something very good happen then. My mother became a widow and moved in with us. And she doted on Richard. She doted on Richard. Many of the traits that he has, I associate with her. He's just like his father. He's bright, can look at a problem and solve it. He works hard. He loves his mother. He takes care of me. He's here 4 or 5 days a week, checking on me. He'll come and he'll say, let's go, we're going for a ride. And we'll go out to lunch. Without him, I think I would have been gone long ago. He does things for me. He keeps me awake and alive. And the other son, because he has so many problems, is hard to be around. But he has all the girlfriends. Figure that one out. Well, he's a musician. So I never thought that Richard would be the one who didn't have all the girlfriends, but Glenn would have them all. But that's the way it worked out. I've been sick for about a year. I'm normally a very active physically and mentally person. I took acting class, I took exercise class, I did my own shopping, I did my own driving, I did my own running around, and then I got sick with C. diff. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's an infection of the inside organs. And I've been recovering from it for a year now. And I don't know if I'll ever get over it. But I'm under doctor's care. I'm very fortunate that I have good medical care. I have Richard who takes me wherever I have to go because I don't drive anymore at this point. I will drive again. I will do all these things again. Somewhere it's written. And but in the meantime, I can't even get out of bed myself. So I have aides all around the clock. A $200 a day camera. Get that in there, 200, which is used up all my money. So the money that we worked hard to save for so we could have fun when we got old is being used up for health reasons. Richard is trying to get me on Medicaid, which probably will help somewhat, but I don't know where that is now. Well, most of my friends I've lost. They either moved away to be near their kids, or they've died. So my group of friends is maybe 2 or 3 people now. I always had younger friends and they worked and I had a wonderful life and they had a wonderful life, but they've all gotten older and moved away.
What is that experience of living longer and then people that you're close and they?
Oh, it's very, very frustrating and debilitating, and you don't know what your next day is going to be like, and it's very challenging. You have to hope that you'll get over it and go back to your old self, but you know it's a different point in your life, and you may have to change a lot.
What would you say to a young person? And they're gonna look into their life thinking about.
I would say have fun while you can, have family while you can, and enjoy family and enjoy life, and save what money you can to have fun when you get older, and hope by then they'll have socialized medicine or something to take care of you.
But you wouldn't say the purpose in life is just to make money.
No, of course not. Of course not. Never. Purpose in life is to have family and love and follow the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. If everybody did that, we wouldn't have war. We wouldn't have war.
Some older people, as they get the age, they lose their purpose in their life. They
That's
don't know.
right, because they don't keep busy. My secret was to keep busy. We have a very busy senior center here with all kinds of activities. If you just sit home and read your book, you're going to go get demoralized. You have to be among people and do things. You have to go on trips. You have to go shopping. You have to do this, that. Keeping busy is the key word.
They're very creative. They enjoyed what they were doing. They weren't just going to turn the TV on at the end of the day. They were actually, as you said, doing. They were busy. They were learning. They were growing. There was still interaction. And I think that there are some people that once they retire, they don't know what to do with themselves.
Now, the aides that I have here, they come in noon and work till the next day at noon and so on. The first thing they do is say, why don't you have the television on? They're so used to living off of television and the iPhone pod, whatever it is. And I don't do that. I don't do that. I would rather go for a ride a block from here and come back than sit here and watch the boob tube.
What do you think is going to happen in 20, 30, 40 years?
Probably going to have a nation of idiots who can't do anything right. And any kind of social reform is going to go down the drain. I go to the theater with a friend every once in a while. Richard gets me tickets. And I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I act. I'm an actress. I'm doing a show June 3rd. Same time next year. I hope I can make it. Keeping busy is the answer. But there's nothing like family. Friends can be good friends, but family is right there for you. And thank goodness both my boys are within 20 minutes of here. And I don't tell that to many people because most of my friends have a kid out in California they see once at Thanksgiving, or a kid in New Mexico they see at its graduation. And I have both my sons within 20 minutes of me. My husband?
Yes, your husband.
Oh, we had a wonderful relationship. We were married 53 years when he died. He couldn't get over me. He was kind of introverted. And he couldn't get over that I was so outgoing, and he lived many things through me. When I would come in, he would sit in that other chair that was there and say, okay, tell me everything that happened today. And I would tell him, and he would live vicariously through that. And but he was a great provider, a great husband, a great father, and a man who also believed in the golden rule and was good to his parents as Richard is to me. Never thought about that. Yeah. He bought them oil for their living room oil burner one year, and we didn't even have money for our own heating expense. He was that kind of guy.
Are you afraid of dying?
Of course, who isn't? No, wait, I take that back. Not to be afraid of dying, you have to be very religious, because you know there's a better life waiting for you up there with a whole bunch of your friends and family you haven't met. I don't believe that stuff. I believe when you die, I'm going to be cremated. I have my husband's ashes in my office. I'm going to be cremated, and that's the end of it. Of course I'm afraid, but I hope that when I go, I'll just go to sleep one night and won't wake up. I don't want to go through all kinds of crap in the hospital. Is that your answer? I'm a direct, honest woman.
And that wasn't so okay growing up to be a direct, honest women. That
No.
wasn't allowed.
Oh no, no, it wasn't direct. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. But I tried to find friends who were like me, but my friends are going off their mentality, or they're dying or moving away, so I'm left with very few.
The way that you knew Alfred was through Mimi, right?
Mimi Forsyth, yes, my
Right.
good friend.
So, anything more about what she said about Alfred?
She was not very happy with him. I didn't go into detail, it was none of my business, but she felt that he could have done things differently, that it made their life easier. I don't know whether that meant divorcing his wife, I have no idea. Whether it meant moving away, I have no idea. All I know is that they were together, they loved each other, but she was very unhappy with him and his things that he did, but she wasn't willing to do anything about it, or was he? Is that about it, Jack?
Well, I have, I have my child's story of it. At some point, she wanted to move away to go to be near her father in, I think, New Mexico,
I don't remember.
and he wasn't going to leave his sons. So
Yeah.
there was that tug.
Yeah.
So she was upset, like, you're not going to leave with me, and he was like, I'm not leaving my boys. So that was the story I heard.
Like
So-
Glenn had a girlfriend. She wanted him to move in with her in the South Bronx, and he wanted her to move up here with him. They split.
Why is it you chose to live in Queens and not Manhattan?
Because we liked Queens. Queens like being in a small town. You remember, we are both from a small town, both from South Bend, Indiana. And Queens had houses and trees, and every once in a while a 6-story building, while Manhattan had huge towers and was a live city. No matter what your interest is, the headquarters are in New York City. We found that out early, and we exploited all that. We wanted to have kids and grow up in a neighborhood, quote, unquote. And it was a neighborhood. This is not a neighborhood, but Queens was a neighborhood.
New York City, what's the first time that you were there? Do you remember?
Yeah, 1943.
And you remember how it was then and the last time that you were there? How's it changed?
Well, first of all, it was overwhelming for me to come from a small town of 100,000 and come to this big, where everybody ran fast and did things, and lights and brights and excitement. So it's always been like that to me, to go to Manhattan. But the nicest part about going to Manhattan is coming home. Whenever I got a chance, I would go into Manhattan. They had Equity Library Theater for a while, which was all the plays you ever wanted to see at no cost. We'd go into that. And to this day, Richard gets me tickets for a friend and me to go to theater in New York. There's nothing like theater in New York, whether it's slapstick, which I don't like, or straight drama, which I love, or musicals, which go on and on. There's nothing like a walk in Times Square. There's an excitement. I imagine Paris has the same excitement, but I've never been there. Nothing has the same excitement that I've seen that New York City does. Not only from the people, but the lifestyle, the restaurants, the libraries, the free stuff you can get in Manhattan. The libraries have all kinds of programs. The stores have all kinds of programs. And if you take advantage of that, you can really, really have fun. But a lot of people don't take advantage of it. They're worried about the schools and what's happened to the schools.
This is your life. So if you're going to look back at your life, what did you learn?
I would learn to try to be the best you can, watch out for the hurdles, and show love to all those who show it to you. And the golden rule. I live around the golden rule, although I can't always practice it.
Just a quick retelling of the story about how you met Bill Clinton.
Oh, Billy boy. Oh, am I wearing his shirt he gave me? No, I'm not wearing it today. Our Chappaqua is a nice little town of hills and valleys and hills and hills. My street is one of the few streets in the town that's level. And he used to come walk here with the Secret Service and the dogs. And he'd walk here, and I'd go out, hi Bill, hi Marvelle, and we'd talk. And one day he came without the Secret Service. He only had the dogs, so I went out and I says, oh, I wanted a picture. He says, well, I'll take it. I can take it. Will you cuddle? I said, I'll cuddle. I'll cuddle, and the selfie is in there, isn't it? The picture's in there, I think, of Bill took of him and me. Go walk in there and see if it's right ahead. Stop! Look ahead.
Oh, yeah.
But he lives in the wealthy part of town. This is not the wealthy part of town. Everybody thinks everybody in Chapel has money. For instance, I have cancer. I don't know if you know it or not. I've applied to half a dozen cancer organizations for help. And we conduct the interview and everything is fine. And they say, what's your zip code? And I tell them, they say, we don't service that area.
As if everybody is rich.
Everybody's rich here, don't you know that? So I've given up trying to get help. I don't know what I'm going to do when my money runs. I don't know what I'm going to do. It cost me $7,000 a month for the help that I have. I don't know what's going to do when this checks start bouncing. I have no idea. I have no idea.
Are you worried about it?
Of course I'm worried about it. I can't sleep at night. I'm so worried about it. What happens to people like me? I had money, but I've spent $7,000 a month for the last year. And that was my money. And now I have to pee. I have to pee, Cameron.
What kind of cancer do you have?
Breast. I've lost both. I don't have any boobs. And I was getting chemo every week until about a year ago when I got this other thing and he stopped the chemo. And I'm taking an oral pill now.
How was that for you?
Oh, I'm not an extrovert.
You are an extrovert.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you like to talk and have
Yeah,
all
I'll
this.
talk anytime.
Yeah.
I just don't hope I didn't give away any secrets, but
You're awesome, Marvelle. Really, it was a pleasure. So I just had another question.
wait, you took the thing off.
We're just going to get your audio because
Oh.
it'll be a voiceover for imagery we show. When you get to be my age, occasionally something just goes away.
Wait till you get to be my age, it never shows up.
You seem to have, I'm told, a sense of humor. Tell me about that. Where did that come from in your family?
My mother was one of 13, and everybody in the family sang, and everybody had a sense of humor. So, I don't know, whenever I'm uptight, I joke. When I'm in a doctor's office and I don't know what's going on, I'll make jokes. Richard does the same thing, although sometimes he carries it too far. But it's nice to have a sense of humor because if you take things too seriously, you're in real doo-doo.
Why do you say Richard carries it too far?
Well, he sometimes does. That's literally, he carries the jokes too far, or too much. But still, I'd rather have him like this than any other way. I love him passionately, and if it weren't for his taking care of me, Camera, where are you? If it weren't for his taking care of me, I wouldn't be here.
The reason Richard and I hit it off is we share the crazy humor from wherever we got it. For me, it's from my father, not my mother, as you know. Did you know, of course, that Alfred had that humor? Did you guys connect over that at all?
I'd like to say yes, but I can't say yes because I really didn't know him that well on an intimate basis like that. Whenever we were together, it was 3 or 4 other people were there, and it was never a one-on-one. But from the things I've heard, he was some daddy. And we don't want to talk about my daddy. You want to talk about my daddy?
Sure. Absolutely.
The fondest memory I have of my father is that I was sitting on my mother's knee learning to count how many cars would pass by until Daddy came home drunk. I had an alcoholic father. And he was a bootlegger during the, what do you call that period? During the bootleg, the alcohol, whatever it was. Prohibition, during Prohibition. Well, I was very close to my mother, but I didn't like my father at all. Nor did my brother like him at all. But Richard is a real drunk in the turn that off.
So when you chose Paul, it was very different than your father.
Oh, yes. Well, first of all, everybody said I was looking for a father because Paul was 11 years older than I am. And they all said, I always went with older guys. They all said, you're looking for a father. And I was.
So what did you think of the Alfred photographs? Because
I love them. I have one on the refrigerator right now. A couple of them. I love the ones where they were not just ordinary photographs, but they were a combination of something political or something physical. Oh no, he was quite talented. In fact, the one where he shows the upper half of the person in the front and then the back, you know which one? I love that picture. I love that. I made copies, sent it to all my friends.
You know whose body that is?
No. Whose? Yours? That's your body? I don't believe him. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
You're looking at my ass, baby. My father had me come in the studio and had me turn both ways and then did this to me.
Oh, you must have been a beautiful baby.
And this is his friend, obviously. That's his friend Vincent Malone. His head stuck in
yeah.
there.
I recognize the ass.
So
Yeah, these are the pictures that I love, and I don't know what you call it. It's sub-art. What do you call this?
photo montage,
Okay, that's a good word.
trick photography.
No, not trick photography, because it's real.
Did you ever make peace with your father?
No. But it was interesting that I found out at a later date that he'd go all around town bragging about me. But never to my face would he say, because I was the smartest kid in the whole school. No, I never made peace with him. We tolerated each other.
How many siblings did you have? And their
One
genders?
brother. He literally moved out of the house once when he was 12 years old and moved into a hotel. And then he ran out of money, so he had to come back home. No, my father was not he was an uncouth, uneducated drunkard. Now, how many people can say that about their father? And that was before AA or any of that. Not that I know if you'd have gone.
What's your brother's name? What's the difference in age?
7.5 years. He's still alive. He's 7.5 years younger. He lives in Indiana.
When was the last time you saw him?
5 years ago, 10 years ago, I don't
It's
know.
actually more like 15. He came to visit us with his wife.
Oh, he calls a couple times a week. Yeah, we talk.
So you guys have made peace?
Yeah, we've made peace because we only have each other. We're a very small family. What are you doing? Throwing things at me.
I'm trying to get you to speak more freely. Doesn't that help? That doesn't help. Seriously?
Exactly.
Camera! Fuck you, Richard. He was a beautiful baby. Richard. It was embarrassing. We used to walk down the street and people used to stop and look at Richard. And I used to always say, isn't he lucky he has a big brother to take care of him? To make Glenn feel like he was part of it.
At least
Well, you know I'm
the
92.
student surpasses the master, which
I
is
do.
coming.
1924.
Yeah. I told you I'm 39 for the 53rd time.
Well, thank you, Marvelle.
You're welcome. It was kind of fun.
Cool.
Now, what will an analyst say about all this?
I don't know.
Depends how much you pay him.
Yeah.
I just think that it's incredible, given your upbringing with your father and the whole story and the way that women were treated, how you lived your life.
I attribute it all to my husband.
He was older. He was the father figure she never had.
Yeah, he's like Richard. He and Richard could be twins. But people have often said to me, how did you overcome all that and become a decent person? I don't know. It was my husband and life.
He gave her the approval instead of the rejection that she'd had from her parents.
Listen to you.
Well, it's obvious. He approved of her, and so she started to blossom. Did you tell him the time, Big Alfred said, come down to the CEG building, I need you to help me sort through artworks? There's a bunch of us working on some panel, and you got there, and it was just the two of you, and he was like standing really close to you, and you got minute.
I got what?
You felt uncomfortable, and you left. You said, where's everybody else?
What are you talking
Where's
about?
the panel? And he stood in front of the door, and you couldn't get out immediately, but you waited for your chance, and then you got out. Did you tell him that?
No,
And
I
you
told him
thought-
that was between you and Mimi.
And then you thought better of it. You came back and said, "Okay, Big Al, let's do this thing." That's all.
Didn't we?
Richard's recording, so go for it now. You
Oh,
want
so
to
then
perform.
now it's
Now it's
on.
recording. Now it's on.
Now you're recording.
Now you're recording.
All right.
It's not going to be in the movie. Don't worry.
Richard, they said that eventually you'll see this, and when you see it, see that I see it.
Okay.
But don't show it to anybody else whom I mention in there.
I was wondering about that.
Because you also are very kind to your other son, whom you love. So it's not A or B.
She has to love him. He's kin.
Well, better yet, he was first.
Worse yet.
He had a rough life.
Well, you know, just
He's golden ages now. He's happier now than he's ever been.
the story you told about him having hot soup poured down his back and those experiences before Richard went to that school, and you said the story was that Glenn was defensive of his little brother.
Right.
If you have him come here,
We're leaving.
right? Like I'm not going to let my brother come.
That's right. He said, I'll move. We'll run away. You won't know where we are.
Did you tell him how Glenn bought the groceries and the change was short?
Oh, that's a funny one.
Tell him.
We lived here, and you had to go to the corner, and there was a not a deli, ice cream place. What do you
Yeah,
call
a
it?
deli. There was a deli.
All right,
grocery
so I
deli.
gave Glenn money, and I said, go get me, I don't know, bread or milk or something. And he came back, and the change wasn't right. And I said, what's wrong? He says, well, I got some ice cream. I said, well, where is it? He says, well, it's out in the yard. I'll get it later.
Here's what really happened. Glenn came back and the change was too little. So she got annoyed and marched over to the
Store,
deli.
that's right.
She marched to the store and said to the guy, you gave him the wrong change. And he goes, let me see the receipt. And, oh, yeah, but he also bought some ice cream.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
it.
and Glenn, whatever. And she said, where's the ice cream, Glenn? And so they walked home and Glenn showed her. He'd hidden it in the bush. But it was a hot summer day and it was completely melted.
When they go back to the old neighborhood, they still look for the ice cream. Yeah. Well, Gilbert, you did a show today.
A command performance.
My parents had this piggy bank in their bedroom. It was a hippopotamus.
A
Looks very
pig.
art-
It was a pig.
Very Art Deco. And I used to take a screwdriver and bend back the little metal board on the bottom of it instead of unscrewing it, and then shake it, and some coins would come out. So I'm stealing from my parents, and I would take enough to when I got to 35 cents. That was enough for a hot dog and a can of soda from one of the hot dog vendors on Queens Boulevard. And I would do that every now and then. What do you
Well,
think
I
of
would
that?
do my grandmother's. You got that from me. My grandmother used to have a thing of money in the cabinet, and I used to go help myself. So you come from a long line of thieves, Richard.
Larceny. Where's that damn pig?
On the shelf,
I thought so too. I don't see it.
Richard. To the left of the window on the shelf, there's a pig.
I know, but I don't see it.
Yeah.
You know what? I might have
No,
stolen
all you
it.
just
Here it is. From, ladies and gentlemen, from when I was 8 years old and already a thief. A pig.
That's
And there's the metal plate under it that I used to pry loose to get the coins out
used to
of.
steal from that.
Yep.
Is there anything in there?
Sadly, no. I
You
just
know
took
who
it
made
all.
that? That was made for me by a coworker at the plant that I was organizing the union in.
Again, this is valuable. That means this is outsider art.
That's actually true. Maybe this is
It's actually too good for outsider art.
maybe this is the solution to all your
Money
issues
problems?
and money problems.
Well, this and that painting.
So who do you think's going to win the presidency? Do you think?
Well, if Trump wins, I hope I go to sleep that night and don't wake up. Can you imagine his representing us at the United Nations or something?
How was it? Fun? Interesting?
Interesting.
Okay. You forgive me for stealing your coin?
I never knew about it, so I couldn't forgive you for past sins, but if it happens again, I'll shoot you.